Dr. Praylow, thank you so much for joining us today. We so appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So give us a little flavor of what your day looks like. What do you do? How do you interact with kids?
So I am a child psychiatrist at an acute hospital, a residential facility, and I do outpatient. And in the mornings, I will go in, I will meet with the kids, I will talk with them about their experiences, about their progress in the hospital, and kind of touch bases with the parents, discuss medications, that kind of thing. That's what I do at the acute.
Now, how does a child come to you? And when you say they're in the hospital, what are they in a hospital for?
So most of the time we are getting kids from the emergency room. So some type of mental health or behavioral crisis has occurred, like a kid will report to their counselor, I'm feeling suicidal, I don't think I can be safe at home, I have recently been traumatized in some way, and I feel like I don't want to live anymore, that kind of thing. So they will tell a teacher, a counselor, a parent, someone. Usually they end up going to the ER, and from the emergency room, they are sent to wherever there's an open space.
Now, when you say they go to the emergency room, is it parents taking them there, or DSS, or do you get them all over, or are you getting them through the system?
Parents take them, DSS might take them. Sometimes someone will call an ambulance, and the ambulance will transport them. And then once they get into the emergency room, they have an evaluation by a psychiatrist there who will determine whether or not they need to be put in the hospital for more intense care.
And primarily, what ages are we talking about?
Our hospital, for the short term, the youngest that we accept is 10, but at the residential facility, which you have to have been through some other type of mental health care, like a couple of acute hospital admissions, have done some outpatient, and it's not really doing the trick. The residential level, we see kids as young as 6 years old there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as you know, that this is a series about human trafficking.
Yes.
So tell us how that intersects with what you do.
So usually there's not a label on the chart that says this kid is a human trafficking victim. So it's really important to really be present with the kid and communicate safety, so that if that is a part of their story, they feel safe sharing it with me. And I often don't get that the first day I meet them. Once they feel comfortable, they will start to talk about their stories. And usually they're not telling me the full story. So what I get is the part that they feel like they can communicate. And even that is pretty gruesome, what they talk about.
Can you give us anything about that? Can you tell us as much as you can about kind of what a session would be like? And I mean, I know I can speak for myself, and I'm sure others, you can't even wrap your brain around it. You can't even, what's it like to talk to a kid who's been sexually exploited?
Right. It is heartbreaking to hear what people are capable of. So recently, I had a kid who talked about their parent being the person that participated in their victimization, and that their parent was partaking in those acts with other people's kids, but also subjecting them to it. And that kid talked about just the conditions, being chained to beds. And one of the things that stuck out was that kid said one of the memories that plagues that kid the most is just the moaning, the sounds, the smells of, sweat, and seeing the other kids in there while this is happening to them. And that kid said, the only reason why I'm telling you this is because I'm not in that situation anymore, but those other kids still are. And some of them were younger than me. And this kid was maybe 11 years old. And to think that there's kids that are younger than that being treated this way by adults. And these adults, based on what this kid told me, are sometimes people in the community that we would never imagine might be involved in this. People who work at the bank or at a school, people that we wouldn't imagine. And so just the way that she was impacted by that, she was talking as if she was a 5-year-old. Like, her voice was really, really immature. So she had developed physically and chronologically, but there was a stunting in her development in terms of emotional maturity. And the reason why she was at the hospital is because she was feeling like she couldn't go on anymore, and particularly was having some anxiety about the legal aspects of having to make sure that justice was served. And so another example that really sticks out to me is, someone came in and there was just this vacant look, and it never changed. Like, we could be talking about something that was joyful, talking about some pleasant memories, but that vacant look never changed, and it just conveyed to you like the robbery of the human spirit that happens when another human being decides that gratifying my flesh and deciding that what I want right now in this moment is more important than anything else. And it's heartbreaking.
So how do you begin to break the cycles? What does it take?
In terms of
convincing a child who's been so broken that, life is good and it's worth living. And when you talk about that kid who's just vacant, how do you put the light back on?
Yeah, it's love. That is all we have, but that is more than enough. And so when we think about like, how do we package love into something that we can actively do, we have to listen, and we make ourselves available to tune in to not only what they are verbally communicating, but that listening then translates into observing and just saying like, I see you, and it's okay that you're where you are right now, but I also see the you that you can be, and reminding them over and over again that it's not their fault, what happened, and even the behavioral issues that manifest as a result of that trauma. The more that we can reassure them that these behaviors are your brain and your body doing the best that they could in the circumstances to keep you alive. And look, you survived. But now you don't need those tools anymore. So let's trade out those things and let's give you some more tools. But don't feel ashamed about using the things that you had to use, and kind of giving them that validation and affirming them over and over and over and over again. And then, empowering them with strategies that they can use and modeling for them what that looks like. So if they're experiencing anxiety, not just saying, here's a coping skill, go do it, but sharing in that, co-regulation with them, and being willing to do it as many times as they need you to.
I think that's the key. I mean, from everything that I've learned through this series, just not a one-time deal. It's kind of like an alcoholic or someone who's addicted to drugs. You just got to keep walking this road and expecting that there's going to be a lot of pit stops along the way. Do you anticipate when you're working, especially with kids who are victimized at a young age, that they can go on and form healthy bonds in all of those terms, relationship-wise, sexually, get married, have kids? Can they do that?
Yes, they can. But it's up to us as adults and, people who have agency to make sure that they have what they need in order to be able to do that, because this is a long journey that we have to walk them through, but we owe it to them because, we all are responsible. We may not be active participants, but if we don't take up the responsibility to say, I am an agent of healing in some way, shape, or form, then we don't give them the chance that they deserve to be able to go on and have that life that looks absolutely nothing like what they experienced in the past.
Just talking with you and looking around your office and knowing a little bit about you, you're obviously someone who loves the Lord and you just glow. And I'm just wondering, when you're dealing with kids who have been so broken, how do you help them not hate? How do you help them reject fear? Because to me, that would seem getting over that hate too is a huge issue.
Right. So the first part is, how do I help myself not to hate? Because I am angry and I am very, 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 just steaming mad when I hear that an adult has done something like this to anybody. And so how do I not hate is the first step, and it's something that I have to work at every single day. But the person who is perpetrating is broken. The person who is perpetrating is fallen, and that nature could potentially take over anybody that makes themselves available to that and does not make themselves available to the spirit. And so that's the first step. And then conveying that to the kid, that person who did that is a very, very sick and broken person. They have the option to be healed if they so choose, and so do you.
And to that point, how do you stay whole? You're a mom of 3 kids. You're dealing with devastating issues. You got to work on staying healthy.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I stay connected. And what I mean by that is that I make sure that when I wake up in the morning, that I have set aside quiet time, that I remind myself of the promises of God, that I remind myself that I didn't really choose this walk. He put it in me, and I don't know why, because I personally have not experienced trauma. But I am so impassioned about doing anything that I can to bring about that healing. And I didn't put that in myself. So I know that this is a calling, and if he called me to it, then he's equipped me to do it. But I have to continue to go back to the source and continue to, pray for guidance. And then the other thing that really, really keeps me going is like when I go in there and I talk to those kids, like they are remarkably resilient and strong and determined. And sometimes they are saying to me things that bring me life. And just to be able to watch the transformation, if you ever see one person come in broken, depressed, don't want to live anymore, suicidal, and they come out on the other side and they're shining and there's a light in their eyes that wasn't there before, like it gives you life. And then an outpatient, I get to see them like over the years, and I'm like, let's talk about this together. Do you remember where you were a year ago? And we celebrate together. And so that also rejuvenates me. And then I try to, just make sure that I take time and enjoy my family and the blessings, that God has given me, and continue to just practice gratitude for everything that I have and everything that I can do.
Have you and your husband had any conversations? I know your guys are little, but about human trafficking, about any of the dangers out there, or do you feel like they're still too young for that?
I don't. And I think part of it is that it's been so devastating for me to take this all in. I want to protect my kids in a way from even knowing that this is part of the world that they live in right now. And I try not to bring too much of work home because I'm already doing a lot. And so I don't know, now that you're asking me that question, how would I have that conversation? And I think if I were to have that conversation, I would not be ready to talk about human trafficking, sex trafficking with my kids at their age, but I would want to talk with them about being safe and knowing that they can come to us with anything, because sometimes kids who get involved in this are seeking love, acceptance, something that's missing at home, and just continue to reinforce them that there are people out there who want to hurt kids, and you always have a safe place here with us. Stay close to your parents, and if anything, doesn't seem right with an adult, you come to me.
On that note, if there's a kid out there right now who's scrolling through social media and is listening to this and feels like they're in a bad situation, whether they're being trafficked right now or exploited, and you could grab their attention for 30 seconds, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that you are a precious, precious, precious jewel, and that you do not deserve to be treated this way, and that there are people here with open arms waiting to love you the way that you deserve to be loved, waiting to walk you through that journey of healing. And you don't have to be afraid to step into the light.
Dr. Praylow, thank you.
Thank you.